Hello. Good morning. How's it going, everyone? It's Monday. And it's the call before the brawl. I'm here with Sparky. Sparky, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm excited for the Summer Royale. I won't be able to be there, but that means I'll be able to be at home watching it and enjoying every bit of the Brawlhalla action. It's going to be a great group of players that we have coming to this one. Some new that we haven't seen in a minute at a Royale, at least because it's a 1v1 only event. The two players are not invited for that, so it's specifically 1v1 only. I'm excited to see, man. I think this one's going to be an interesting one. They always are, but I think this one has a very special connotation to it because of a couple players invited that we'll get to later on, but also because we're really getting towards the end of the year. It's really right around the corner that we're all of a sudden going to have BCX.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one for a multitude of reasons, which of course we'll get into. I think before that we got to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. We got to let y'all know about some stuff in the world of Brawlhalla. So first and foremost, we got to let y'all know that the Eclipse bundle, it's going away. If you haven't picked it up yet, if you haven't heard Foda give you the spiel about how it's his favorite scythe skin and how it's the best Artemis skin and all that goodness, make sure you pick it up before it's too late, because otherwise you're gonna miss out, and then the new bundle will be here and you'll be like, oh well, I'm really excited for this new bundle, but I also wanted that scythe, and it'll be sad for you. Also, of course, like we are saying, Summer Royale is going to be this weekend, so make sure you set your calendars, mark it so that you can watch. It'll be this Friday and Saturday. This Friday will potentially be that kind of short stream where we get to see the banter happen. Unfortunately, some of the best banterers are not going to be there, but we'll get banter from new people. And then Saturday will be where all the action happens. That'll be the round robin phase, as well as that final elimination, double elimination, to see who's going to be our Royale winner and see if maybe we'll have some similar trends to what's going on in the world of esports Brawlhalla, or if things change up a little bit, which would also be interesting. And then,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. No, I'm just doing the spiel.
No, you're doing World of Brawlhalla. I was ready to say something else. I forgot that there was.
Yeah, there's one last thing. Make sure you sign up for BCX, bcx.live, to sign up for the World Championship. We got a lot of good stuff getting planned for that, as well as stuff in person. You know, it's a fun time. It's a good esports event. It's honestly it's got to be like top esports events for us as Brawlhalla fans, right? You go there, get to hang out with all your friends, get to have fun, get to scream in the crowd. It's a really good time. Highly recommend. If you're able to make it out, sign up, bcx.live.
The earlier you sign up, the better, because it lets the tournament organizers and everybody involved in the production, here's a hint, it's a lot of different people, a lot of different moving parts, helps them know how many people to expect, at least that sort of bare minimum that we're looking at. Because obviously there are going to be people who register late. It happens. Some people need to figure out if they're able to, if they can save up enough money and time, all those things that come from balancing real life and our interests. But if you know that you're going, make sure to sign up as early as possible to give everybody involved in the production of BCX plenty of time to understand how many people are coming, so they can set aside things like chairs and setups and all of those good things that are just going to make the event better for you.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a peek under the hood. I'll give you a little bit more. Obviously, we talk about how the number of tables and setups we need is impacted by the number of people who sign up to play. But also, I'll tell you, merch. It's going to be impacted by how many people sign up. So there's potential that will run out this year on certain merch items. And so the more people sign up in advance, the more likely we are to buy enough merch for y'all to pick up in person. Of course, there will be online orders and stuff like that. But I think it's time we get into Summer Royale. You ready, Sparky?
I'm excited, man. We have a lot of interesting storylines going into this one. We have like new budding storylines that we'll see unfold, and we also have like sort of continuation of previous storylines that we've watched for months and months now in this very jam-packed, dense year that we've had of Brawlhalla esports.
Yeah, I think I kind of want to do like a little bit of an overview of how things are looking as esports fans for the people at home who don't know what's going on, before we get into like the people themselves, the individuals who are making out. Because this one, like we've been kind of saying, it's a little interesting. So across the year, we've had 3 DreamHack events, 3 in-person events, and we've had 3 winners in 1v1s, each from a different region. We've had Use, we've had Godly, and we have had Impala. only one of them has been able to make it to the online portion of things, who's been able to make it to the Royales. That's Godly. So we're not going to get to see Hughes maybe try to reprise that title of the champion. Instead, we're going to have a new champion this season. We're not going to see Luna, who came out and won the Winter Royale. We're going to have a new champion in that regard as well. It's not going to be someone who reprises the title either. And we also aren't going to see Impala come out, because Impala, he also didn't make it. So we've got like this really weird spot where I think a lot of people are going to be looking towards Godly, and we'll get into that. But also, like, we've got these new faces, like you're kind of hinting at, these people who haven't really shown up in these 1v1 spaces. A lot of the people who are making it out to this Royale are people who didn't really get to make it out to a Royale in the past, which is really cool and really interesting, because like we've been saying, like, a lot of people are starting to return to form. A lot of people are starting to step up in their 1v1 skills. A lot of people are just kind of leveling up, and it's building to a really cool BCX.
So do we want to get specific, or are we still giving overviews right now? Do you have anything more to say about the overview?
I don't have anything else. If you have more, you can always add on.
I don't. I'm ready to move into players and sort of give you that continuation of what you just said about players returning to form. I mean, who's the biggest one? I'm looking at the GOAT right now. I'm looking at Sandstorm. I'm looking at PR number 6. We could be on the precipice of another Sandstorm era. Now, I don't think it'll be quite the same in terms of domination as it was previously. I think this current crop of top players is going to do everything in their power to make sure that it doesn't happen the same level as before. But he's really found a good spot, and I hope he sticks with it. But he's found a really good spot on the Mirage, and I think that's really important, because when we think of Sandstorm as a player, we also think heavily character specific. If we're thinking Godly and Godly's overall career, we're not really nailing him down to like one specific thing. But when you look at Sandstorm, of course, we instantly focus in on the Scythe, and then we also instantly focus in on the Mordex. Mordex doesn't have as much of a place, at least based on how people are playing Mordex in the meta at top level in tournaments. But they are moving a lot on Spear. The meta is shifting so much in 1v1s over to Spear, and I think Sandstorm moving on to Mirage is a perfect indicator of him understanding how he himself fits into the meta. This isn't him looking at his past and being like, well, I did basically everything that you could do in the game with Mordex. I'm the best player who's ever picked up the sticks, ever touched the keys, and so I'm just going to keep trying to do that. No, he's adapting to the way the game is currently played, and his best shot to do that, I believe, is with this Mirage pick.
It is really interesting that he's kind of settled onto this Mirage. I think there's two big thoughts that I have with regards to that. Is one, he has in the past kind of played other legends in ways where he's like, okay, the meta hasn't really developed on Zol, for instance, right? And then he brings it out and he's like, okay, that was cool, and then he'll usually hop back to the Mordex. And like time and time again, I think a lot of people who of course have been following Sandstorm for a really long time are always like, when is he going to bring out the Mordex? That's like the clutch thing for him, right? It's like, oh yeah, cool, you played your thing, and then now you go back to the Mordex so you can win, right? But it seems like, kind of to your point, he's really sticking with Mirage. I think, like you've been saying, the Spear's been looking really solid. I think the meta's kind of shifted away from Gauntlets, which also kind of helps, is that he's like, well, Gauntlets are really just like a 2v2 weapon at this point. So Spear's looking solid, and of course, like people like to point out, you got the sand effects inside the Mirage kit, so you got the kind of memeology behind that as well. But no, I think there's a lot of really good things working for him with this specific pick. And one thing in particular that I'm looking at with Sandstorm that I'm seeing a lot of chatter on social media with is like, he's also going into the community events, right? I think it was NSIG recently where he did incredibly well. Was it NSIG that he won without dropping a single game? Was that right?
You know, that's a good question. It wasn't Trolley.
Okay.
I know that because 1v1 Trolley was won by Luna, I believe. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Sure.
He won. I know he won a community event recently without dropping a single game, and it had like some big names in it. Like he beat Luna 3-0 to be crowned the champion, and I think a lot of people looked at that and were like, okay, it might be the return
Oh no, it
of
was Sandstorm. I have worms not just in my mouth from Trolley, but I also have worms in my brain, and they're wriggling around in there, and they interrupted my thought process. Yeah, it was Trolley, and that's why it's not in the stat tool yet, is because that was a very recent tournament that hasn't been added into the stat tool. So yeah, that's mine. I thought, for some reason, I thought Luna won because I was so excited to have Luna win 2s and then 1s, and then just get completely buried in Trolley Sour Bright Crawler bags. But that didn't actually happen, and you're exactly right. You nailed it. Sandstorm won it without losing a single game.
Yeah.
He lost 1 to Luna and then 2 to Luna, and actually won a Truck Stop Burrito as well. So yeah, I'm ready for in-person events. My brain's all over the place, and I'm ready for that, to lock into that in person. Man, I'm ready to watch Summer Royale.
Oh yeah, I'm of course very excited for that. But that, I think, again, that the fact that he's doing these community stuff, he's starting to play a lot more frequently. People are starting to see him out there, and they're like, whoa, he's really taking names, and he's not just kind of like stumbling through it and being carried by his namesake. Like he's holding his own. We're seeing him in offline events as well, get into those later stages of tournaments. He's looking really good, and I think that's boding well for him right now.
Yeah, his run this year really started when he got 5th in that Winter Championships, and we all kind of like looked around the room at each other and made eye contact and elbowed each other. We're like, yeah, the GOAT still got it. And then he just kept doing better as the talent pool increased, and we moved into our open entry, not open invitational, open entry lands, and he just kept doing better and kept pushing farther, and he went up against old players, went up against new players, went up against the new hotness in the meta, went up against people playing their old standbys, and he still just came out on top and showed us, even in current year, why he's the best. Not just because he has some of the strongest fundamentals in the game or any of that, but because he's still able to adapt in ways that other people just can't, because he's able to lean on all of that experience he has from over the years and truly being the best to ever do it in Brawlhalla. So this is a very exciting storyline. This is him coming to the Summer Royale, hoping to add a Royale win to his cabinet, because that's like really one of the only few things that he hasn't fully done in Brawlhalla, and that's really maybe only because Royales are a new thing, because they've just happened this year, and now that they're an option, his sights are set on it, he's focused on it, and there's a very good chance he comes home with the gold medal.
Yeah, it's very valid that of all the accolades that he has, he's never been crowned the Monarch in Brawlhalla, which of course he definitely wants. But I think, again, you gotta at least, at the very least, point out that he won the Summer Championship for North America. He went home with the gold medal, and so people are looking at him as kind of the favorite for North America right now. There's a lot of other strong North American players that are going out there that we'll get to talk about for the Summer Royale, but I think just the fact that he won is kind of making a lot of people turn their heads and go, is he back? Is this a one and done? He's been close, but we want to see that consistency again, that continually on top role that he used to fill.
Yeah, the top 8 at Valencia was like okay, hold on, my ears are perked up now. I'm really starting to pay attention to these Sandstorm runs. And then, absolutely, like you said, into first place in Summer Championships to clinch the invite to the Summer Royale. That's just an upward trajectory, and if I'm worried about anything, I'm worried about Sandstorm with momentum.
Yeah. All right. Well, you picked Sandstorm, so are you okay if I pick the next name?
I would love for you to do that.
Okay. Well, I mentioned him in the kind of setup to what's going on today. Let's talk about Godly, the most recent offline winner of an event. Godly, of course, won DreamHack Valencia for the Europeans, but he's also struggled when he comes over to North America. He's talked about how there's a debuff when you travel, which is something that he didn't have to deal with for Valencia. He's still done, of course, very well for himself despite that debuff. But at the end of the day, it's still Godly, and of course, a lot of people are looking at him as that EU favorite. He's the one who's carrying the mantle, PR #1, and like I said, winner of the most recent offline event.
So when I was thinking about Godly, I kind of developed what I am calling the professional player in-game experience syllabus. Okay. And this is sort of everything that a true in-game Brawlhalla professional player is looking at doing. These are where their sights will be focused, right? A guy like me, something like Diamond, or of course Valhallan would be like the end stage of that. Something I'm most likely never going to reach, something that very few players in the game will ever reach. But that's sort of the things that I'm looking at my level. But if we're talking about a professional player, the Professional Player In-Game Experience Syllabus, that's PPEGES, or PINGUS for short. Step 1.
Where's the N?
The N in endgame.
Oh, okay.
So step 1 is to win a seasonal. Now, some of these will have sub-steps as well. Sub-step 1A would be to stay relevant at that level. That means to stay relevant in placements at seasonal. Step 1.5 is to win a Royale. And then, of course, 1.5A is to stay relevant at the Royale level. That means also the levels before that as well. So come out, maybe not necessarily win the seasonals, but make those regular top 3 so that you then get the invite to the Royale, to where you can continue to stay relevant at the Royale. Step 2 is win a major open LAN. And then 2A is, of course, stay relevant at the open LAN level. Step 3 is, of course, win BCX. That's the next step up, is to win that world championship on the global stage, the one tournament that everybody comes to and everybody is focused on. And then step 4, I don't even think this deserves a sub-step. I think you move on to step 4, and that's to stay relevant at all levels. That means seasonals, that means royales, that means open lands, and of course that also means BCX. So some players like Sandstorm have basically done all of that. Now, he got to skip over the Royale step just because they didn't exist until this year, but we'll see what happens with him in this Royale. But Godly is also kind of skipping over that 1.5 step of winning the Royale as well. He's really at step 2 after he won a major open LAN. So he's going to be looking back a little bit, hoping to win this Royale and keep himself relevant at the Royale level.
Yeah, Godly, it's always fascinating to me. Godly's one of those people who, like, I don't want to root for because I hate EU, but I gotta root for Godly of all people. And he's such a treat of a person, both to talk to and also to watch play. He's so stinking good that you have to, like, kind of watch and just be like, you know what, I gotta respect how strong of a player he is. He has time and time again gotten so close to taking it home for EU. People, again, we talked about it at Valencia, kept saying that it was a matter of when, not if, he was going to do it. He finally did it for Valencia. We talked about the momentum Sandstorm has, finally winning the summer championship, kind of coming back on top for Sandstorm in North America. But the sheer amount of momentum that Godly's got to be riding from Valencia has got to be absurd. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time. He still is going to be riding it a little bit from the summer championship. That's like a little bit of a boost to make him go like, yeah, I'm still riding high. But again, once we go to these offline events, he's going to be coming over to North America. He's going to be having that travel debuff. Who knows what's going to happen? But he's got so much momentum behind him right now.
Yeah, this is Godly locked in I think a way that we really haven't seen before. His confidence has been locked in for a while now. He's always been saying, like, I'm going to win a LAN this year. Under the pretext of that was him probably saying, I'm going to win BCX as well. But his confidence has been locked in for a while now. That's never really been under question. The legend question that he had for a while was like, do I play a Surrey? I don't really like a Surrey because of the way you kind of have to play Sword in current meta. That was sort of at the beginning of this year when you saw that resurgence of a Surrey. A lot of people moving to that legend. Around the same time, once people moved away from a Surrey, they kind of moved into the Lucian. So he hasn't seemed confident on who he actually wanted to play until he locked in with the Wu Shang in both 1v1 and 2v2s. This is a solid workhorse legend that he can use in both game modes, take experiences from both game modes, funnel them into the other one to make this one legend even more better for him, the best that it can possibly, even more better all the way up to the best that it can possibly be for him. And if we're comparing him to Sandstorm in that way that Sandstorm has landed on Mirage, look at it. He's doing the same thing. It's another spear legend. He is going to pull up those gauntlets when he's, of course, playing Wu Shang, usually the Chun-Li crossover version. But still, it's around that spear and how spear fits into meta. So two amazing players in the game are ultimately ending in not necessarily the exact same position, but very similar positions between those two. And it's built around how they play a spear legend into current Brawlhalla.
Yeah, I was thinking of that exact same parallel of like Sandstorm's known for his scythe, but he's now decided, okay, scythe plus spear. Now Godly, he's known for his gauntlet players. I mean, looking at the character pool that he's got, Mordex, Caspian, Petra, we know his Rayman as well. Like you said, he had the Asuri, but now it's back to the Wushang, gauntlets plus spear. That seems to be the shift for a lot of people right now, is whatever their main weapon is plus spear, and it's been working really well for them.
So he finally got that, not DreamHack, he finally got the BCX Grand Finals rematch that he wanted at Valencia. And he got the results that he wanted out of it as well, taking it a 3-0 with no reset. That is staying relevant and winning a major open land. That's step 2 right there. And then he continued to stay relevant at that tier, or really the tiers below, at step 1 by then winning the seasonal as well. So he's showing this momentum on his side, like you mentioned, coming out not just in the top 3. He didn't just skate in 3rd place to swipe that invitation out of the air and put it in his back pocket. No, he came out on top in 1st place. Godly has so much momentum behind him. It's personal momentum, it's results-based momentum, and it's also like fan momentum and crowd momentum as well, to see what he brings for us at the Summer Royale.
Last point I'll make about Godly is that he is one of the few, I think it's literally only 2 people, including him, that have made it to every single Royale at this point, and he is, I think, the only one who earned his, well, no, that's really mean sounding. No, but he top 3 for his region. But Godly, I mean, obviously that consistency, those A's that you're talking about, like 1A, 2A, and 3A, being relevant outside of that, continuing to propel themselves. Godly, I think, has really maintained that, and I think it's very worth mentioning that he's made it out to every Royale so far.
So from someone who has made it out to every Royale to someone who is making it out to their 1st Royale, and that is going to be Java.
Java, okay.
PR7. He's had, you know, I'm going to be quite honest here, he's had middling performances for the majority of this year after setting pretty high expectations at the end of last year with a top 8 at BCX. Now, if we look at his placements for this year, they kind of started off, let's look at the Winter Championship. Let me pull this up. Well, instead of looking at Godly's stats, if we're looking at like the Winter Championship, 13th place. For a guy who is PR6, for a name like Java, outside of top 8 in the Winter Championship is not great. Then moving into Spring Championships, he was outside of top 16 and got 25th place. Then we move on to DreamHack San Diego, and he's outside of top 16 there as well in 17th place. Then at DreamHack Valencia, he's outside of top 16 again at 25th. So he's had a string of very rough placements for a player that we would expect coming from someone like Java, whose name that we've known for a long time. But he's very much tightened it up here recently with a 9th at Dallas, you know, right outside of top 8, and a 3rd place at Summers that earned him the invitation to this event.
Yeah, Java's an interesting one in the sense that, like, I've had my eye on him since 2021 North American Brawlhalla World Championship, where he got 2nd. Like, he had the capability of almost being crowned a Brawlhalla World Champion. And since then, I was hoping for those, like you said, those A's, that consistency, that ability to do incredibly well, and then take that energy and then to bring it to other events. But like you said, he's had a lot of really tough performances. I mean, even across like what you're saying, I don't even know if these are DQs, but there's a 97th in here. There's a 65th in here. So he's had a lot of really rough runs in his 1v1 space. I thought this year when he teamed up with Fakey that was going to be the return to form. They did incredibly well at San Diego, and then still not really seeing it in those 1v1s. He's been so close, and I think part of it is like he didn't have the Bodvar, but like we're kind of pointing out, it's okay. He's taking what he had from the Bodvar, the sword, putting it onto a character with the spear. He's over to the Hattori. He's looking pretty solid so far, but I really feel like specifically in the Summer Championship, he got brick walled against Experience.
Yeah, that definitely happened, and it's really just a case of I don't know exactly what the issue is, because Java coming out and getting 3rd at the summer championship, like that doesn't blow me away. I'm just like, oh yes, this is a Java placement. I'm really more blown away by the other rough placements from him. So I don't know what the issue has been so far this year from him. I don't know if it was just some headspace stuff. I don't know if he just didn't have time to dedicate to Brawlhalla, and then all of a sudden here for the summer championship, maybe school was out and he had some more time to dedicate to it. And the second he has some time to dedicate to it, all of a sudden, boom, we have a 9th at Dallas, and then of course we have a 3rd at the summer championship, and he actually shows us what he's really capable of, what we know him for. So, of course, this not being a doubles event, which, of course, he won the doubles summer championship. So this not being a doubles event means he can completely focus on that 1v1. He's had time to practice in between the event ending and then the summer Royale coming up this week. So I think this is going to be a better indicator of how he's playing right now than if we're looking at, like, the 25th place at DreamHack Valencia or the 17th place at DreamHack San Diego. So I'm looking for that renewed vigor of Java, and I'm looking to get excited about Java again. The Summer Championship certainly helped, but I want to see it in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see that brought to in person because, I mean, like you've kind of pointed out, the in-person results in 1v1 specifically have not quite shown. I will say, and I'm going to credit Flambeau with this 100%. When we were watching during the Summer Championship in person, Flambeau kept kind of turning me. He's like, dude, Java has the potential to be the best in the world. Like, there are times where Java really hits his stride and he is looking undefeatable, and then for whatever reason it just kind of falls apart. Like I said, he got brick walled against Experience, going 0-3 against Experience on the Mordex, who, like, that was not who Experience was playing throughout most of Summer Championship, and yet it still was enough to destroy Java. I think if Java can maintain it, I think that's like going to be the big thing for me with Java right now is it's all about that consistency. Can he have the consistency in results? Can he have the consistency in play to show that, like, he really has that potential? Because we all see he can do it when he's on, but sometimes it just doesn't quite happen.
And that's really all I've got for Java. I mean, I feel like there's just not a lot to go on recently because he's had that string of rough placements and sometimes, like, barely making it on stream, if at all. So I don't have a lot to go on Java recently. I mean, really, it's only, like you mentioned, of doing kind of the same thing that Sandstorm is doing, that Godly is doing, with moving on to that spear, finding a refuge on that spear. And some of the other players also, it's not just these three. We're going to keep adding to that list as we move on through our other contestants at the Summer Royale.
Well, I'm going to take a turn. We got a fork in the road, and I'm going to say, let's go to someone who let's go to someone who does not, who went away from the spear. Let's talk about Wes in South America, who he's the big Tesca guy right now. It's very exciting to see someone kind of consistently play Boots. We have been seeing, you know, more and more Boots legends have come out. Of course, there's Tesca, there's Thea, there's Red Raptor, and they've been legalized for tournament play. But really, Wes has found his stride with Tesca right now. He's hopped away from the Orion. He doesn't want the Lance or the Spear, and instead he's like, yo, Boots is where it's gonna shine. And I mean, I was watching clips of him earlier this week, and he's just showing so much cool stuff with his Boots in particular.
And that's kind of Wes. Is like, even before that, now South America as a region did typically use more Lance than a lot of the other regions for like a long period of time. Now we're of course seeing the Lance resurgence, and we have been seeing it for a little bit, but for a while there, Wes was like one of the few people regularly playing Lance and pushing that weapon as far as it can go and making it just look like one of the best weapons in the entire game, even though overall pro player choices in Legends didn't really reflect that. But we've had such a great year of international gameplay from Wes. But not even just the recency of it, but the most impressive thing to me about Wes is it's like those sub-steps of the Pengus system, is how he's been able to stay so relevant. We always talk about how difficult that is. Players come and players go, and they make it into the top 3, and then they kind of fall off, and then they maybe make their way back in. But Wes has done such a good job of, even though the talent pool in South America growing to insane levels of gameplay. Like we regularly, and not just us, but lots of people talk about how Kaina could be the best player in the world. And here we have Wes, the player who's been doing it for years and years and years, who has gone across so many 1v1 metas, so many 2v2 metas, so many 2v2 partners, a whole suite of legend choices. Wes is still here, able to come out in second place, securing an invite to the Royale. That's him being relevant in his region. That's the step one. And then we also have him being relevant on the global stage at open entry lands. DreamHack Valencia coming 5th place in that as well. If we back up just a small step to 1.5, look at him at Spring Royale. He top 4'd in the Spring Royale. So he is just all over the place in terms of amazing placements in seasonals, amazing placements at the Royale, and amazing placements in LAN as well, showing a masterful command of Brawlhalla at virtually every level he exists at.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me, specifically like when it comes to the conversation about the South Americans, because I think there's a different pressure. There's the pressure of people have consistently discounted South America, but now they have to respect it. But also B, it's the fact that less people from South America are able to make it to the Spring Royales. They only get 2 slots versus the 3, so that we can get an 8-man. And then they still are performing so incredibly well. South America was able to completely block out North America at the Spring Royale. Both of the South Americans, all 2 of them that got to make it to the Spring Royale, managed to make it out of the round robin phase and into the double elimination side of things. There's just so much credit I want to give to South America as a whole, but also, again, Wes coming in with that Tesca. He's looking so good. Part of me is sad that he's not playing the Lance, because I love his Lance in particular. But man, when he is on that Tesca, he's just looking so good right now.
He's been able to secure invites to 2 of the 3 Royales. Yes, that of course includes Summer Royale of this year. And he's also been able to place top 6 in either one or both modes. That's 1v1 and 2v2 of every in-person event he has attended this year, Open LAN and Royale. So yeah, he's shown such relevancy in 1v1s and in 2v2. We talk about Kaina so much. Of course, we always talk about Fiend as well, the Fiend factor. But Wes, I feel like Wes is just this, I said workhorse before, and I don't want to use the same word again, but Wes is such a workhorse of the South American region, where it's kind of like the upside of Java, where like Java got 3rd and came out for the Royale, and that's not a surprise whatsoever. Wes getting 2nd, of course, that's not a surprise. I'm no longer like, what? Wes did what? He accomplished what? Are you serious against some of the other players in his region? Because he's just been that guy for so long. He controlled South American 2v2s for so long, and even had his hand in controlling 1v1s, though that was a more revolving door of guests that we would find coming out in the top spot. But man, Wes and Power Ranger, Wes and Fiend, he truly is a powerhouse of a player, and that's not just in his region. That is truly globally, and that is across all of Brawlhalla's history.
Only last thing I'll say for Wes is, like, I cannot wait for him to get a gold medal. It's been a hot bit. He got his last gold medal in the Winter Championship of 2022, so it's been a bit. But he's also, like we've been pointing out, been so consistently close. He's been up there, 2nd place at the Summer Championship, got 5th place at Valencia, 4th at the Spring Royale, 2nd place at the Spring Championship, 4th place at the Winter Championship. Like, he's consistently up there for the region. I cannot wait for him to get that gold medal, but it's hard because, like we've been saying, there's so many people in the South American region who have really stepped it up this year in particular.
So let's move from someone who used to use Lance quite a bit, still does from time to time, to someone who is leaning on that Lance a lot, who we know really for a lot of solid Lance gameplay here recently. And that is Grape, all the way from EU, coming in at PR6. Ever since his 17th place at BCX, Grape went from like a top 50, sometimes top 32 placer, to 2 podiums in his region and very close to the podium on LAN.
Grape is he's so fun in the sense of, like, he's a great person. If you've ever had the chance to meet him in person, he's just an absolute delight. Such fun energy that he brings, but also just like I kind of have said this before. But he's kind of like the young guy, right? Like he's just this young guy who people are like, is he really, gonna come in here and do that well for the European region? Is he really like gonna be a representative, or is he one of those one and doneers? His second place finish at the Spring Championship kind of caught a lot of people off. But then since then he's been looking solid. Like it seemed like what really happened was he found the secret sauce. He really figured out what he needs to in order to do well, and since then he's been doing incredibly well. Of course, we got the second place at the Spring Championship. Yeah, he had a rough San Diego, but 7th at the Spring Royale, 5th at the fifth at DreamHack Valencia, 2nd at the Summer Championship again. Like he's found a little bit of what he needs to do to perform at the top level when there's people like Godly that he is competing up against.
And that's where we look at the Spring Royale and him getting 7th, and that's like, oh, okay, all right, you look, you made it to the Spring Royale, which is an accomplishment in and of itself, and then you got second to where you essentially tied for last. Like that's okay. That's not bad. You can come back from that in the future. You can take what you learned at that event, apply that to future events, which, I mean, it's quite obvious that he did exactly that. Coming out in Valencia, which I believe he got 5th at. I can double check. Yes, he did get 5th at DreamHack Valencia. He had an amazing run going up against many different incredible players at that event. He just barely lost in Game 5 to Impala. He took out Munir 3-0, took out Skelger 3-1. Now, he did run up against, what we want to talk about brick walls, ran up against Godly, and that was brutal. He lost that one 1-3, but some of these other players he took out, I mean, he beat Lores 3-0 at DreamHack Valencia with this Orion, man. His Orion is so good. He's able to lean on that spear down sig. He's able to utilize the lance really well also. He's able to, I mean, he also has other spear legends beyond just the Orion. We saw him pull out the Mirage and the Queen Nai against Impala. Now, unfortunately, that didn't win for him, but still, we know that he has more in the tank, and it seems like for the most part, we don't even need him to have more in the tank because his Orion is just so good.
2 things I'll say about him. One, you talked about brick wall. I had to look up the stats. He's 0-7 against Godly. Godly is definitely a demon against S-Grape. But 2, talking about his Orion, talking about his spear play, he is someone who I think has optimized spear punishes in a way that, like, most people are aware of, but he just does it really consistently and really well, which is if you burn an aerial dodge against S-Grape, you're gonna get double downlighted, or you're gonna get downlight, gravity cancel, and sigged against him, and he has been doing incredibly well with that. That's one thing that we saw a lot in Summer Championship, is if you dodge poorly against S-Grape, he will dismantle you with his spear play on that Orion. It'll be interesting to see. I think I saw him tweeting out that he's putting the Orion to bed. It's time for something new. So I don't know where exactly he's going to be shifting. We've seen him start to bring out a little bit more Tesca, and he's definitely had some highlight plays. I'm thinking about the one where I think he clipped Acno with his Tesca. But even then, it's just what exactly is he going to be going to if he's not playing that Orion?
Yeah, that's what I'm excited to see with the Summer Royale as well, is because we have that round robin phase before you get into that top 4 standard double elimination bracket. There is, I don't want to say a lot of time, but there is more time than normal to experiment with how you want to play. I mean, if we look at another player who made it out to a Royale and literally said in person on the microphone that they weren't going to play Orion anymore, or really they weren't going to play Lance anymore, like that was Stingray. And then when it came time for games, that of course went out the window. So yeah, I'm really curious, because if we look at Summer Championship, we see a lot of Orion from him up until like his first set with Godly, and that was sort of the big changer. Then he went in with Thea, and then he also went in with the Tesca as well, and they kind of stuck with the Tesca after that set for another set against Godly. And then he also did that against Acno as well. So there are a handful of sets in there where he's tested the waters with the Tesca. Some good, of course, the 3-0 against Acno. Some not so good, 2 0-3s against Godly. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for S-Grape to go in a lot of different directions. He could go the Thea direction as well, but he also could and has shown us that he might go the Tesca direction.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta sing the praises of S-Grape once again. He's arguably like the youngest blood here for any of the people coming out to the Summer Royale. He's not been one of those big names for their region, unlike almost everybody else who's making it out to the Royale. And yet he's still holding his own. He's still able to show up. And like we said, he got that second place at the Summer Championship, which is a repeat of his performance at the Spring Championship. So you cannot discount this guy.
And he really has had one of the quickest rises as well. We go from Wes, who has had this long, storied career at the top seemingly for almost all of it. Then if we look at Grape and we look back at just September of last year, September 24th, the European Autumn Championship, 49th place. He's barely top 50, just skating in right at the end. Then all of a sudden, a couple months later at the World Championship, he's just outside of top 16 all of a sudden. He's 17th place. Now, that's not the end. Sky's the limit for him. The Winter Championship, he cuts that placement in half. Now, it is just in the European region, but still coming in 9th, right outside of top 8. Then all of a sudden, everything changed in January, February, March 25th of 2023. He was like, I'm going to kick it in a high gear. 2nd place at the Spring Championships. Did slip at San Diego. 33rd place. That was very tough, of course, because we talked about his BCX 2022. San Diego was not his first land, so we don't get the first land Johns there. Came out outside of top 32 at 33rd. But Spring Royale, he made it to the Spring Royale. DreamHack Valencia 5th, and then the Summer Championship just a few weeks ago, 2nd place as well. So he's had a meteoric rise in his region.
Yeah, he's been absolutely outstanding. Anything else you want to say about Grape?
That's all I've got for him.
Okay, well, let's talk about someone who has not made it out to a Royale yet. Let's talk about not Kyler Alice. Well, he hasn't made one out either, but let's talk about Kaina, who did earn a flight to the Winter Royale, if I'm not mistaken, but at the time he was not physically capable of making the trip. This time it sounds like he is, because we're not talking about someone different in his place. We're talking about Kaina, the PR number 3. But like you said, he's one of those people who people look at for the South American region and say he might be the best in the world. He might be that top guy. Of course, Hughes kind of stolen that spotlight with his win in Dallas and his win at the Spring Royale, but still Kaina's up there as one of those people who's like, we haven't really seen him fully tested. Yeah, he went to San Diego. He got 3rd. That's pretty good. Oh, was he at the Winter Royale?
Yes, he was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
He got 3rd.
Oh, he got 3rd. Okay, never mind then.
It's organized on the stat page. It's in a really weird spot because it's like 3rd from the top. The top is Summer Championship, which happened just a couple weeks ago. Then the second one is DreamHack San Diego, which happened 3 months ago. And then the one right under that is a Spring Championship. And then below that is Winter Royale. So it's organized in a very strange way. This is all UI interface problems, not Duke's fault.
It's Creed's fault. We can admit that. It's Creed's fault.
It's Creed's fault.
We can just say that. But what is it? He got 3rd at Winter is what Toast is telling us.
Yeah, he started off really strong. Like his round robin in the beginning, like the first few games in the round robin, I feel like they were all 3-0s. And I mean, I was sitting back there. I was having to sit on my hands. They were having to tape up my mouth because I was so giddy with like, yep, it's the kind of sweet baby. He's coming in. He's going to knock out everybody. He's the best player in the world. And I knew it from the very beginning. But then he sort of slowed down as the day went on. He was still able to qualify to move out of round robin into the actual double elimination phase with the top 4, but he definitely did start to slow down as the day went on. And at that point in his career, like that was the kind of special, is he would come out, he would put amazing players in the dirt. No issues whatsoever, but then as the day went on and as the sets got longer and longer, I'm still looking back against, I think it was like Godly and Stingray, I think were the double eliminators of Kaina at BCX last year. And it was like as the set went on, like maybe we were in a game 4 and Kaina could have closed it out, but no, Godly clutches it, and then I would just like lean back in my chair and be like, well, that's probably it right there. The tension, the moment, the pressure is just going to get to him because he's still a relatively young player. Not as young as Lores, but still a relatively young player, especially when you compare him to some of the other players in South America, like Wes, like Fiend, like Power Ranger, players who done been around for a long time compared to a player like Kaina.
Well, he's still a very talented player. Similar to Wes in that he's been consistent with placements, of course. I'm looking back, and I had to go all the way to 2021 to find a placement of him outside or in double digits. And since then, 7th, 6th, 4th, 4th, 5th, 3rd, 1st, 2nd, 2nd, 1st, 5th, 1st, 3rd, 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 1st. He's basically podiuming as many events as he can make it. The 5th place, which is the most recent not podium placement from him, was at the World Championship. He is a very strong player. One thing that always stood out to me about Kaina is I always remember him for a Bodvar, I always remember him for a Zol, but it seems like he's mostly locking in the Asuri. Looking at the stats tool, 54 lock-ins on the Asuri. How are you feeling about that one, Sparky?
Man, I'm just excited to see him at another in-person event because it's been a minute. The last time we saw him was at, I believe, San Diego. And that was, of course, several months ago. And a lot of things have changed since then. I mean, he's been winning tournaments with Taros now. He's been playing Taros in tournament and winning the entire thing, putting everybody else in his region in the dirt, no issues. And I'm excited to see how that works in person because it's been a while since we saw an exceedingly strong player pull out the Taros in 1v1s. But if we look at what he did at the Winter Royale against Luna, he struggled against Radish, and he struggled against Godly. 2 of those players will not be at this event. That's Radish and that's Luna. Godly will still be here, but he's in arguably a stronger position than he was at the Winter Royale, where they came up against one another. I believe in the round robin phase, it might have been in the top 4. So, man, I don't know. I think Kaina is in a different form than he's been, and I think that's a very good thing for him, and I'm just really excited to see what he brings to the in-person event. He's been to several in-person events now, so he's had that experience multiple different times, and I think having that experience and then moving into a more focused, controlled environment of the Royale compared to an open entry, I think that could be really good for him to try to really add up all the lessons without having to deal with all the chaos and all the variables of an open entry.
Yeah, I am interested, kind of like you said, in this Taros pick. That's what he played throughout most of the Summer Championship. Mostly because a lot of the North American, European heads will be like, Axe in 1v1s, what are you doing? You know, like
I'm the same way.
Yeah, they do not think Axe is a strong 1v1 weapon. In 2v2s, solid, fine. 1v1s, why would you play that over almost any other weapon? But at the same time, like, you know, Taza at the Summer Championship kept pointing out, you know, South America likes to push the envelope a little bit. They like to be on the cutting edge of where the meta is going to shift, and sometimes we'll pick characters before everybody else is like, you know what? Maybe we should kind of start playing that new legend. So it'll be interesting to see if this is another one of those cases, or if it's one of those things where, like, the Taros works really well within the region, works really well in the online space, but when we go to offline, when we're playing against some of these other players, they have it figured out and it just does not work that well against them. That's going to be a big question mark for me, specifically about Kaina. And if that ends up being the case, what is he going to shift to? Is he going to go back to the Asuri, which doesn't really have a lot of carryover to Taros? I don't know. That's going to be the big question mark. That, and how is he going to KO? Because he KO'd with like Axe neutral light like 15 times. I swear, it was crazy. So those are kind of like the big question marks for me with Kaina right now.
Yeah, I think the Taros pick is very interesting for a lot of reasons. Like, yes, of course, he has the experience in the past on the Taros, but if you look at the 2 weapons that Taros has, it's like, it's the Axe in 1v1s, which I'm not a big fan of. It's, of course, not impossible, but I think right now it's one of those weapons that, like, you need a special player to play it, and it can work, right? It's like the Jala pick, and it's like, oh, Pugsy, for a while, Pugsy was, like, the only one who was allowed to play Jala because he could handle it. There were reasons to play Jala, but for the most part, he was the only person that could make the Jala work, so he got the license to play Jala. I give Kaina the license to play Taros and deal with Hammer and how it fits into current meta after receiving some buffs, but also how Axe fits into current meta as well when you don't have another weapon, if we're talking about Jala, like the sword, like that standard weapon that everybody's familiar with.
Well, speaking of Axe in 1v1s, let's talk about, we got 2 more names left to go. Let's talk about experience. He didn't really play that much Axe in 1v1s, but he has in the past. He played the Zol at the Summer Championship for a couple of his sets. It seemed like early on, as well as he barred out later, but then he switched over to the Mordex. So he's had a pretty interesting spread of characters in his 1v1 space. Experience to me is so fascinating, specifically for 1v1s, because time and time again people are like, Experience, he's a 2v2er, he's great at 2v2s, that he's a young guy, let him do his 2v2s, that's cool, stick to your 2v2s, winner MSI, cool, 2v2s. But he's starting to show that skill in the 1v1s. I believe it was right before the summer championship where he tweeted out something along the lines of like, he had his aha moment, he had that moment where he figured out what he needs to do to play well in the 1v1 space, and it showed. He had one of the most incredible elimination bracket runs out there.
And that's why the Royale format is so exciting, is because it is so different. And if you compare it to, let's compare it to a regular open entry LAN. He has to focus on 1v1s and 2v2s both within a very short time frame. Like, you're playing 1v1s one day, and then the next day you're playing 2v2s. And then all of a sudden you're playing 2v2s and 1v1s against the best players in the entire world. So it's very rapid pace, very rapid adjustments need to be made. Even if you look at an online seasonal, right, you have a week between the two where you have the weekend of 2v2s, then you have some time to kind of decompress, and then you also have the week of 1v1s. But still, it's a very short time to prepare to play up against the absolute best players in the entire world. But at the Royale, it's only 1v1s. That's all we're concerned with. He had that aha moment, and he can now channel all of that energy, every little bit and piece that he learned, while 2v2 knowledge is swimming around in his head, while all of seeing his friends at an open LAN event is swimming around in his head. No, he can throw that out. He can laser focus in, put a magnifying glass, a microscope on, put horse blinders on if he wants to, and only worry about the 1v1s. That's why, or one of the many reasons, he's going to be so scary at this event, is he can channel everything into the 1v1 game mode and figure out exactly what is working, exactly what is not working, and find the best amalgamation of details to come out on top.
One thing that I'm trying to figure out right now, honestly, is this going to be the first offline event where Made is not going to be there alongside him? Because
that could be the case.
I'm gonna just lie and
just
say
it
is. I don't. Yeah, sure it is.
Yep.
And to me, it's not like, oh, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, Experience, he's his own person. He's an adult. He's old enough to make it out. He can do whatever he wants. That's fine. But I know, me personally, as an individual, if I had my friend who was with me at all of these events, and then now I'm going to do one without them, I'm going to be a little bit like, well, I can make new friends, but I would like to have my, my comfort friend who's there, who can help me kind of, if I don't know what to do, if it's 4 a.m. and I want to get to Waffle House, who do I turn to? You know what I mean? So I think that's going to be one of those things where I'm a little bit worried for Experience. I know he's still on the younger end of things, and maybe the fact that he doesn't have Made there next to him, at least cheering him on or rooting for him or talking to him in his 2v2 space, it might impact him a little bit.
Or maybe, like they are on Twitter, Made will exclusively exist to be mean to him as
True.
They get back and forth on Twitter, and maybe that will fire him up, and that'll be what he needs, and he'll come out on top. So yeah, it's going to be it's a big question mark for Experience, and I'm going to add an exclamation point into that. I don't remember what that grammar tool is called, but
is it an interrobang?
I don't remember what that is. Is that what that is?
The question mark exclamation point? Okay, well, anyways.
It doesn't matter, but because I'm really excited. I want to see Experience do well in 1v1s and succeed in 1v1s after he sort of has this like renewed energy for the game mode.
Yeah, super excited to see him come out. We got one more name that we got to talk about as we are coming up on time, and I feel bad that we don't give more time to this person. But let's talk about Nees, the final person who's going to be making it out. He is going to be that fill-in for Akno, who unfortunately couldn't make it out because Akno, I think, has school, which is
nerd,
lame. But he did earn his spot. He, I think, got 5th. Right?
Yes.
Because the 4th place was Pavelski. Pavelski couldn't make it out. He got 5th, and he had to play out against XJ Cool J. Ended up beating out and then making his way out to the Summer Royale. Nees, again, he's had an astronomical rise this year in particular, from doing not that great at the Winter Royale. He got 7th place, basically the final spot because Machete DQ'd out of the Winter Royale, to now coming in here and earning a spot here at the Summer Championship, or at the Summer Royale. He's one of the few who's been consistently coming to these Royales. And again, I'm still looking at that performance at the Spring Royale where he got 3rd place, and it was like, wow, okay, is Nees finally on top?
So my biggest question with Nees is and of course I don't know, but it seems like he's a bit lost on which legend he wants to choose. He played 7 different legends at the Summer Championship. He played Mirage, he played Wushang, he played Nyx, he played Mordex, he played Hattori, he played Lucian, and he played Vrax. Those are a lot of different legends. They have sort of the same main tent poles. If we're looking at Mirage and Wushang and Hattori, we of course see the spear coming out. Then there's also some shared scythe in there that we know him for. There's some shared blasters in there as well. But what I think I really want Nees to do is I want him to take a page out of Godly, out of Sandstorm, out of, I forgot who the other one was. It doesn't matter right now. And I want him to find that spear crossover that he really sticks with. And I'm going to take a page out of Sandwick's book here because I agree with him on this point that, hey, maybe it's time for the Ada. Because Ada is a combination of the spear, very meta weapon, alongside the blasters that we've known Nees for a long time. Of course, he played the Vrax, he played the Lucian, he played the Nyx. We've also known him for Diana in the past. So maybe it's time for the Ada to shine.
Very interesting. Of his 2, so his card will show the Lucian, but it's only because the Lucian has been picked 6 more times than the Mordex. Like, the difference is 49 to 43. Both are big picks. Honestly, I disagree with Sparky on this regard. I think both of those characters are just really good, and when he's on them and when he's looking good, it's some of my favorite gameplay to watch is watching Nees kind of like, yeah, he'll Icarus himself, he'll Nees himself, he'll go a little bit too close to the sun, and he'll throw a stock trying to go for an edge guard that could have been finished a lot safer. But either way, both the Lucian, both the Mordex kind of lean into that, and I love that, and I want him to just kind of stick with that.
And even aside from all of the legends that he played very recently in specifically Summer Championships, he's still been top 6 at 4 out of 6 official events that he's entered this year. So that's huge. That's very impressive. And that's not just like a more of like a charity case of like, oh, well, you made it to the Royale and you got 6th place. It's like, okay, well, there's like only 8 people there, and one person might have DQ'd for that event. And even at that one that we're specifically talking about, he got 7th place there, so even that one wouldn't count if we were trying to massage the numbers as well. But we don't have to massage the numbers because he's gotten top 6 at 4 out of the 6 official events he's entered this year. Nees is poised to do well at this event. I expect big things out of him, and I just want him to figure out what he wants to do with his legend choice. And maybe that means playing different legends all the time. Maybe he is that guy that can make that happen. Kyler Alice did it in a tournament. Other players have done it in tournaments where they play a lot of different legends and ultimately come out on top. It's certainly possible, but again, it takes a very special player to make things like that happen. And that's, I don't know how many people I would peg as that type of player, as opposed to someone who picks maybe 2 or 3, or maybe just the Ada, probably the Ada. I think we should just go with Ada.
Well, you know what? You already said Sandwick agrees with you, but we also have like a literal confirmation. Sandwick says, okay, but Nees playing Ada would literally guarantee
that's
top
my
2.
goat.
So, I mean, maybe Nees, you got less than a week to figure out if Ada actually is that pick. But either way, that is all for our call before the brawl, before it all. And the Summer Royale will be here this Friday and Saturday. Sparky, any other things you want to say?
No, you nailed it, man. That was some bars you laid out for us right there. I'm excited to watch it. I think it's going to be a great time. We've always had a great group of people being sent to the Royale, and I think this is another great one, and it's for different reasons, and I'm really excited to see the variety.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Of course, as a North American fan, I'm hoping we can at least get 1 or 2 people into the elimination side of things this time around. That would be nice. But either way, of course, like you said, everybody who's going out there is an incredible competitor. Like, every single time we go to the Royale, I like walk in, I'm like, you know what? Any of these people could probably win it. Any of these people could make it through. And it's just a matter of who's really playing that day. But that's going to do it again for our call before the Summer Royale. Thank you all for watching. Toast, any final things that we got to say? Sign up for BCX, watch the Summer Royale. Anything else? Okay, that's everything. Bye, everyone.